Good afternoon. This meeting of the Finance and Member and Participant Services Committee is being held at 30 North 3rd Street, Harrisburg, PA. By participating in this session, you are consenting to the recording, retention, and future viewing of this meeting. Although being live streamed via the internet, this is a live, in-person meeting open to the public in accordance with the Sunshine Act. The live streaming of this meeting is presented as a convenience and is not provided as the official means for public attendance. In the event the live stream fails or cannot be transmitted for any reason, the in-person public meeting will continue without interruption. Please proceed with your meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, this is Mary Soderberg. I'm the chair of the Finance and Member and Participant Services Committee meeting, and it being about 12:33 on December 5th, I would like to call to order the Finance and Member and Participant Services Committee. May we have a roll call? Brenda Kennard, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Senator DeSanto?
Here.
Thank you. Chair Philman?
Present.
Representative Frankel?
Giannaco designate.
Thank you. Chair Soderberg?
Here.
And Secretary Veg?
Alan Flanagan designate.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have the required number of committee members.
All right. Thank you very much. The first order of business is the approval of the minutes from September 22nd. I move to approve the minutes of the September 22nd, 2022 Finance and Member and Participant Services Committee meeting. May I have a second, please?
Second.
We have a second. May we have all those in favor?
Aye.
Please say aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any nays? The motion passes. Thank you. We have no old business to discuss. The first order of business is a special presentation, and I will turn this over to our Executive Director, Joe Torda, to introduce. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Soderberg. Under the provisions of Act 2010-120 and Act 2017-5, most state employees hired since 2011 have a variable contribution rate. This is determined by comparing the fund's actual investment returns to the assumed rate of return used for the actuarial valuations. This determination is made every 3 years. The end of this year, 2022, is a determination point. There are a number of different aspects to shared risk, shared gain being triggered operationally from SERS. First of all, there's an obvious financial aspect. Member contributions for a significant number of active members are going to change. It's a different amount of money coming into the fund. There's a technical aspect to it. SERS coordinates member contributions through all of the participating employer payroll feeds. All of our member statements, benefit calculations would all have to be reconfigured for these impacted members. There's a communications aspect, which is significant. Every single piece of applicable literature, including information on our website, would need to be updated. And lastly, there's a very significant customer service aspect, which is my background. Notifications would have to be sent out to all of the impacted employees, and we would anticipate a significant number of contacts from those employees asking why the amount of their contribution to the retirement is changing, what impact it will have on their pension benefits, and we would anticipate that our customer service representatives would have a tremendously heavy lift in trying to explain these changes to the active membership. Today, we've asked Korn Ferry, our actuary, to walk through some of the critical aspects of the issue. If you look under tab 5A in your board docs, you'll find their presentation. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Korn Ferry.
All right, now it's on. All right, so I'm starting on slide 4 of our presentation. If you want a paper copy, Chris is coming around with those right now. All right. So as far as shared risk, in the State Employee Retirement Code, Section 5501.1 is where you'll find an explanation of shared risk and shared gain. All class or Act 120 members, that's classes A3 and A4, and Act 5 members, and that's classes A5 and A6, have the potential to be impacted by either shared risk or shared gain. And that happens when we do a determination period, as Joe mentioned. We're looking at a 3-year period right now at the end of 2022 for Act 5 members, and we're looking at a 10-year period for Act 120 members as of December 31, 2022. So coming into this, we just wanted to look at some, kind of inform the board of what the potential is and how the calculation is done. So if the investment return, the actual return compared to the actuarial assumption is greater than 1%, above, then there's going to be a shared gain. If it's greater than 1% below the actuarial return, then there will be a shared risk. And the shared gain and shared risk vary by whether it's Act 120 or Act 5. The Act 120 members will have a 0.5% shared gain or shared risk that would kick in, and the Act 5 members have a 0.75% shared gain or shared risk. It's important to note that when Act 120 came into place, there was only a shared risk that existed at the time. Act 5 added the shared gain to Act 120 members. So not only do they have the potential for, having to pay more, they have the potential to pay less after Act 5 introduced that to the Act 120 members. All right, slide 5. So as Joe mentioned, the next testing period is December 31, 2022, where we'll do the 3-year testing period for Act 5 and the 10-year testing period for Act 120. What happens, the way the shared gain, shared risk works is the 3 years that we're looking at for Act 5, in 3 years, down the road in 2025, it'll become a 6-year testing period. In 2028, it'll become a 9-year testing period, and then from 2031 on, it'll be a 10-year testing period. And at that point in time, once we're to the 10-year testing period for Act 1 or for Act 5, the Act 120 and the Act 5 will be the same, 10-year testing period going forward. And the 1% above and 1% below expectations, will be the same calculation for those two. However, the risk or gain for Act 120 members is still 0.5% per year, that caps out at a 2% maximum gain or 2% maximum risk. The Act 5 members have a 0.75% per year shared risk or shared gain, and that caps out at either a 3% risk or a 3% gain per year. And by gain and risk, I'm talking about an adjustment to the employee contributions. All right, if we switch over to slide 7, this is background on what information is available. All the assets, in CSRS go through BNY. So BNY has a record of every single transaction. And what they will do after December 31st is they will provide to CSRS the performance detail, and they provide that analysis to 4 decimal places. Callan gets that information. They will audit and review that information and confirm that they agree with that same calculation to 4 decimal places. The investment office will also look at that and review that information and make sure that it's reasonable before passing it on to OFM, and then from OFM it makes its way to us. So one of the things we looked at is what kind of information is available. Originally when we did this calculation, we were showing it to 1 decimal places, although we did have more some additional underlying precision there, and then we upped it to 2 decimal places, but we know there's up to 4 decimal places available right now when these calculations are done. On slide 8, this will give you some historical returns, and this is generally what we show in Schedule D of our valuation report, and what we're showing, in that first column of percentages is the actual return for that year to 2 decimal places. The expected return is the board adopted assumption for the investment return for the year. For 2022, the 7% is still in place, but the board has adopted a 6.875% assumption that will apply to 2023. So that'll kick in for next year. And finally, then we just take the difference between those two, and that shows you either the excess or shortfall. A negative is a shortfall to the assumed return, and a positive is an excess, and a negative is a shortfall. On slide 9, this shows the 9 years that we looked at through 2019, the last time the determination was done. And as of that time, the only calculation that was done was the Act 120 group. And the bottom right-hand corner, 0.16%, that was the average difference over the 9-year period. So there was no shared risk or shared gain triggered at that point. And if you look at the first 3 years in the upper right-hand corner, the minus 5.26, the positive 4.46, and the positive 6.11, that would have triggered a shared gain if shared gain had existed. But as I said earlier, shared gain didn't come in until Act 5 introduced it. And then after that, now we're at a 6-year period and a 9-year period. There has not been, any shared risk or shared gain triggered to date. But through 2022, that's not completely written, but it looks like there was likely to be at least one shared risk that would kick in at that point. 2 pages over on slide 11. So we've had some discussions about, what's available, what should we be using for this calculation, and we, looking at the precision that's available, knowing that 4 decimal places is available, we felt that the best place to go in this analysis is to use what's available and what's, audited and tested and reviewed. And we decided that the most precision is the best way to go here. So when we're doing our calculation, what we're proposing is that we change this from looking at it as 2 decimal places and now looking at it at 4 decimal places. To give you an idea of what that looks like, on page 12, and it's kind of rare that either one of those two is going to have a different answer. It's a very small possibility, but there will be some minor differences. If you look down near the bottom right-hand corner, the 0.1622, that was a 0.16%. When we did it to 2 decimal places, it's 0.1622 over that 9-year period. And again, that would not have triggered a shared gain or shared risk in 2019. Now, what we want to look at is some additional information. So in 2020, the excess return was 3.98%. That's down near the bottom right-hand corner. The shared excess, again, shared gain risk excess was 10.2399% for 2021. So, coming into 2022, at the beginning of the year, it looked like the system was on track for a shared gain as opposed to a shared risk. But if we turn over 2 pages, this gives us an idea of what we know so far in 2022. So the estimated return as of September 30, 2022 was negative 16.1297%. And that's in that first column, the third number from the bottom. So what that's done is it's, now 23.1297 percentage points short of the 7% assumption for the year. So using, this, if this is the way things ended December 31, 2022, then the Act 120, the A3s and A4s would be at a shortfall of 0.9917%, and that would not trigger a shared risk. But the A5s and A6s would be at a negative 4.0486, and that would trigger the shared risk on the Act 5 side, and that would result in a 0.75% increase in the employee contributions for Act 5 members. Slide 15 is going to show you what returns you need to trigger for each group. The shared risk versus the shared gain. Again, we're at negative 16.1297. So if that gets down to negative 16.1957, not far off from where it is, at 4 decimal places, that will trigger the shared risk for the Act 120 population. So they're very close right now, and that, just a little bit more of a negative return over what it was September 30 would trigger that shared risk. If we were doing it to 2 decimal places, you can see on the left-hand side, it would take a negative 16.21%. Again, there's some minor differences, but not that far off. To get to a shared gain on the Act 120 population, you would have to go from being at negative 16% to being close to, positive 1%, that 0.9793%. And that would be what you would need to get to a shared gain. It doesn't seem likely in the last month here that will happen, but we just wanted to make sure you were aware of what would have to happen to get there. At 2 decimal places, you would need to get to 1.06%. And then for the Act 5 group, you would have to get down to a negative 8.46%. Well, you're already well over a negative 8.46%. But to get within that threshold, you would have to have enough of a return to have something just below a negative 18 or just above, a little more positive than negative 8.4595%. And then to get a shared gain, you would have to get about 5 percentage points higher than that at negative 3.1814. So right now, the way things look, I think we're kind of on the cusp of the shared risk for the A3, A4s. It seems likely where we are right now that the A5s and A6s will have a shared risk 0.75% increase in their contributions. And the last slide that we have is 17. Just wanted to give you an idea of what impact this will have on employees, and how it impacts any employee is going to depend on their specific situation. But we just wanted to show you what a 0.5% equaled for A3s and A4s, and what 0.75% equaled for A5 and A6, based on the average pay of the group. This data that we got here is about a month old. We got a cut from CSRS IT and looked at the data. So these counts tell you that there's about 37,000 Act 120 members, and there's about 16 to 17,000 Act 5 members. So the 0.5% shared risk for A3s would be about $12 per pay period, assuming 12 or 26 pay periods per year. Would be about $12.60 for A4s, because their average pay was a little higher. The A3 and A4, the A3s are the 2%, and the A4s are the ones that pay extra to get the 2.5% accrual. Then when we get to the Act 5 group, the A5s would be about $14.60 per pay period, and the A6s, which is the lower 1% accrual as opposed to the A5 1.25% accrual, would be at $13.70 per pay period. We blended those together so you could see the Act 120 being about $12.09 per average per pay period, and the Act 5 being $14.54 on average per pay period for that group. Again, that's based on the population as they are today. When we move to July 1 of 2023, there's going to be some changes in these populations. There will likely be more Act 5 members. There will probably be fewer Act 120 members as some of them leave and they're replaced with Act 5 members. And then the pay will be adjusted based on pay increases that happen. But hopefully this just gives you an idea of who will be impacted, the numbers that will be impacted, and the cost per pay period. That's what we wanted to go over today. Are there any questions, comments? Yes, Mary.
Yes, so the data that you will look at will be as of the end of December 2022. So will you have everything you need for the next board meeting? Is that when we'll actually be discussing this?
The information usually becomes available in February to us. So at that point, once we have everything from BNY, once everything, Callan has reviewed it, the investment office has reviewed it, and OFM sends it to us, we get it, sometime in February. So at that point, yes, we can do a calculation and show you exactly where you are. The investment office is very good with this too. They have the spreadsheet set up to do it, so they probably will have a better idea before us of what that is. But yes, definitely, any meeting after we get that, we can have that information available.
Okay.
A question, Mary, in general, and maybe Joe can answer this. Who is responsible for making the message to the employees? Does that come out of office administration? Does it come out of here? We never done it, I know, but is there a game plan for that?
Yeah, there is. We've already got communications. It would come from CSRS. Our communications office would issue notifications to the impacted employees. And we've already, when I say we've started working on the drafts, we've already started talking about the framework of what those letters would involve.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Yes.
This is good information, and I think it's good that we're having the conversation now instead of February. But I did want to make sure, are we going to be doing the calculation with the 4 decimal places instead of the 2?
That is the intent at this point. As our representatives from Korn Ferry mentioned, the book of record, Mellon Bank actually takes out the calculations to 4 digits. So this would just be using the most accurate information that we have available to make these decisions.
If I may, on that subject, the statute talks about the calculation is based upon the actual rate of return, and if the actual rate of return is 4 decimal points, that would be logical to do. I'll also point out that now that the assumed rates of return are calculated to 1/8%, those go out 3 decimal points. So you would want to have the investment returns be at least as accurate as the assumed rate of return for comparison purposes. Then I assume when you do the math on the actuarial returns, you end up rolling out another decimal point. So yes, the statute would seem to indicate to use as accurate as information as you have.
That works for me. I just want to make sure that we're all clear and we're all on the same page that this is how we're going to do the calculation. These are the inputs. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Thank you both very much. New business. Brenda Kennard, do you have an update for us, please?
I do have an update, just one brief update on some work that OMPS staff have been doing with Polk and Whitehaven centers. I don't know if everyone is familiar with those centers. Polk Center was opened in 1897 in the northwestern part of the state in Venango County, and Whitehaven Center was opened in 1956 in Luzerne County, which is adjacent to the Poconos. But the Department of Human Services opened these centers to serve as homes for adults with intellectual disabilities. And there they've been provided with 24-hour supported living, medical care. They get developmental activities. There's a senior center. And they also have the opportunity to work at jobs that they select. But in 2019, the department announced that the centers would be closed. But with the COVID-19 pandemic, those closings were delayed because there were a lot of challenges in placing residents. This year, they announced that the centers would be closed November 30th, but as of today, they are still not completely closed. They have extended the deadline. I don't have a definite date when they'll be closing, but they still have some residents who need to be placed, and they're trying to place them in smaller, more community-based settings to make the transition a little bit easier. So our staff have been working with the employees of the centers who are affected. There are about 642 employees. There are, I believe, 407 at Polk and 235 at Whitehaven Center. So our staff have been working with unemployment compensation, Department of Labor and Industry, Social Security, Empower, doing these rapid response sessions so we can go out and meet with each person individually to determine where they are. Are they eligible for a retirement? Are they going to vest? Are they going to try to find other employment? Talking about their health insurance benefits. So staff have been involved with that. Membership has been involved in verifying their service. We want to make sure that they have credit for all their service because maybe they have service to purchase that will vest them. So this has been a big undertaking for staff, and still working on it until all the residents are placed. Does anyone have any questions about that or what staff are working on? Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Thank you, Brenda. Okay. Sarah McSurdy on Office of Financial Management, please.
Thanks, Mary. I was just trying to get my camera to work, but it doesn't seem to be coming on, so, oh, there it is. Magic. Okay, good afternoon, and I'm going to give the Office of Financial Management update. This is under Board Docs, Agenda Item 6B. Go to the next slide. I'm going to cover a couple things today. First, we're going to cover some highlights of Office of Financial Management activities. This will just be since the last time that I gave an update earlier on in the summer. And then we'll go through the September 30th, 2022 statements that we have for our defined benefit plan, our defined contribution plan, and our deferred compensation plan. If you can move forward one more slide. Thanks. The first item that I wanted to talk about was our awards that we got for our annual comprehensive financial report. We received the Governor's Governmental Finance Officers Association Award for our 2022 ACFR, and we submitted an application for our 2021 award. We've also received the Public Pension Standards Award for funding and administration from the Public Pension Coordinating Council, or PPCC, for our 2021 ACFR. These awards are the highest form of recognition for governmental accounting and financial reporting. CERS has been a long-standing recipient of these and shows that the hard work and effort that takes place by CERS management and CERS staff in producing our financial reports. If you go to the next slide. The next thing that I'm going to cover are some major accomplishments or events that occurred in the Office of Financial Management. Over the summer, despite our efforts to, keep a full complement of staff, we noticed that our staffing was down 7. We had 7 vacancies that we operated with. Over the summer, with assistance of CERS HR, we were able to fill, I'm not sure if I said 6 or 7. We had 7 vacancies, and we were able to fill 6 of those. I know this is not just a problem within the Office of Financial Management, but it's issue at CERS and all other organizations out there. But, we really exceeded my expectations over the summer, and, getting 6 new team members to come in. Joe knows because he comes down and introduces himself and welcomes them to CERS on their first day. We've had 1 new hire start since the middle of August. There was 1 new hire that started every week until the end of September. So we had a nice inflow of new employees. They ranged from fiscal technicians, which is our basic entry level position, up through an accountant 3. So I'm really excited that, we had that success over the summer. And then since then, we've lost 2 more people, but that to me really just is par for the course. It's more of a reasonable, number that we can operate with. We then submitted our 2023-2024 budget to the Governor's Budget Office. We submitted long-term actuarial projections to the Independent Fiscal Office. We also submitted our stress testing and risk assessment report to the Legislature and the Independent Fiscal Office. The Office of Financial Management made sure that we were complying with CERS agency-wide policies and initiatives. These cover anything from documenting processes, user access control evaluations, and also reviewing internal control reports for our third-party vendors. Another major accomplishment was that we upgraded our general ledger, e-business. This took a lot of planning, testing, training, and eventual go-live took place over a 3-day weekend, Veterans Day weekend, because there was just that amount of work that needed to take place. So there, we've had a successful upgrade of our general ledger, and that was really important to do before we get to the end of the year. And we're utilizing that, key foundational system in producing our financial statements. We had several staff attend a NAGDA conference that's focused on defined contribution plans and also the PAPERS conferences. These really, I do believe, provide a good, relevant, cost-effective training opportunity and educational opportunity for our staff. It also provides a good way for our CPAs to obtain the CPEs that they need to keep up with their license. Out of the 6 new employees that I talked about on the previous slide, or earlier on in the slide, 2 of them have their CPAs, which is great. And then we have 5 already on staff. So now we have a total of 7, which is really great and important to me as Michael and I move forward with developing the culture in the Office of Financial Management and making sure that we get, the best people that we have to create the best team that we can to provide the best service that we can to CSRS and its members and its participants. And then we also, our investment control division looked at their monthly close process that they do for our investments at the custodian. And they really looked at the process, made it more efficient, made people more accountable. That's really important because this process just isn't housed within the Office of Financial Management, but we deal a lot with third parties, the Bank of New York Mellon, our custodian, StepStone, the consultant for our private equities, and then also thanks to Bill and Jim, the investment office and their analysts has really been getting involved in the process to get all of the reporting in a more timely manner so that we can close on a better schedule. If you go to the next slide. So some current and upcoming projects and initiatives. We, as you know, our year end is December 31st. So we're gearing up for all of our year end activities. This takes a good bit of amount of work on top of the normal day-to-day operations. It also involves not just the Office of Financial Management, but also other business areas at CSRS. So in addition to the first bullet, making sure that we continue to train and onboard and transition our new staff, we're going to be, they're coming in at a great time because we're going to be picking up with these special projects. So we're going to be looking to prepare our 2023 supplemental budget book. We'll do a review of the annual census data before it goes to the actuaries for the 2022 actuarial valuation. We'll then move on to prepare our 2022 financial statements for our 3 plans, and then we'll go through the external audit for those 3 plans as well. We work on annual IRS reporting, and then we produce our more robust 2022 annual comprehensive financial report and the GASB 68 employer pension report. We're also making sure, Michael and I, that we get the word out to our staff that are going to be affected by the upcoming SOC audit, the Service Organization Controls. So just making sure that they get their feet wet and they become, understanding what is going to be coming down the pipeline over the next couple of years. So the items that I've had asterisk green are what we've implemented Workiva for. Workiva was a strategic plan project on this current strategic plan, and it really is a great tool, and I want to give Michael an opportunity he's really the guru, and he's spearheaded the usage of this across many different reports that we have. So he's just going to take it. He's very passionate, so he was very excited that I asked him to do this today.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am very passionate about Workiva. So some background on what it is. It's reporting software that allows our team to work more collaboratively and efficiently. It was procured back in 2020, and the hope was that we'd get the software, it would streamline our publications, because as Sarah said, they're very time-consuming, large documents that we got to do on an annual basis. So we started with our audited financial statements for CSRS, and then each year we took a phased approach of adding 1 or 2 additional reports, to the software. This past summer, we incorporated all of our major publications, as you can see on the slide that's up on the screen right now. Some publications are produced entirely from Workiva, but we still have a couple, the budget book and ACFR, that will go through our communication and policy office to make sure that they're of the highest quality. So they're still putting the final touches on the documents and making sure they look good. So there's a number of benefits with the software. I'd like to go over a couple of the more significant ones. So it allows multiple individuals to work in the publication at the same time. And since we have multiple offices within CSRS that work on it, they could all be in there simultaneously updating the document, which obviously saves time. Another great feature that increases the efficiency is that the way it allows us to link the numbers in the publication with the underlying data. If something is reported multiple times in the document, we only need to have it once in the source data, which means that we only have to update one number instead of a number of them, which saves time and reduces the risk for error. An example of that would be our year-end date. So if you can imagine, December 31st, 2021 is listed a number of times in our 2021 ACFR. It's actually over 300 times, where we used to have to update them all individually. Now we can just update the year one time, and it will automatically populate those 300 different references, which is really great. And finally, we're able to upload and store supporting documents in the software, which leads to a faster, more effective review. And to give you an idea of how we used to do it, I brought along this binder here, which is some support documentation for our 2020 budget book. This is all going to be electronic going forward. You know, we have a number of filing cabinets full of these, but now it's going to be all electronic, which will reduce paper, save a lot of time. We've also heard from KPMG, our external auditors, that said the electronic documents really save them time and effort as well. We're going to continue to evaluate our monthly and annual processes to see if there's anything else that we could implement in the software and continue to maximize its use.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to add that, not only is Michael currently the subject matter expert on Workiva, he also plays a big part in training our staff and other staff at CSRS to make sure that they're comfortable in using the product as well. So not only is he, technically sound, he's also, wanting to spread his knowledge to other employees and team members for these projects. If you could go to the next slide. And keep going one more. So we're right up on time here, so I'm just going to give a brief high-level overview of our financial statements here that we have for September 30th, 2022. This first one is for the defined benefit plan. We started out the year with approximately $40 billion. We added approximately $2 billion in employer and member contributions. We've seen investment losses, though, of approximately $7 billion. And we've paid benefits and expenses of approximately $3 billion. So overall, we've had $8 billion reduction in the corpus of our fund, and we're ending September at approximately $32 billion. If you go to the next slide, and keep going to the next statement. Thank you. This next statement is for the defined contribution plan. We started the year out at $78 million. And then we've added approximately $35 million in employer contributions, participant contributions, and plan transfers so rollovers in. We've also added approximately $1.2 million in the annual employer per participant charge that we charge to our employers. We've had net investment losses of approximately $21 million, and then deductions out of the plan of approximately $5 million. So this is benefits, transfers out, TPA, and other administrative expenses. So overall, we're ending September at approximately $88 million. And then if you can move forward 2 slides. The last statement that I'm going to cover is the deferred compensation statement. Once again, this is as of September 30th, 2022. We started out the year at approximately $4.8 billion. And then had participant and contributions into the plan and transfers into the plan of approximately $183 million, and investment losses of approximately $926 million. We then paid benefits transfers out, so rollovers out, and then third-party administrative expenses of approximately $243 million. So overall, we're ending September at approximately $3.8 billion. And that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sarah, Michael, and Brenda. As everything becomes more and more complex, it's good to know that you are working hard to use tools to make us a little bit more efficient and effective, so thank you very much. All right, that concludes the business. We've got some informational items that are available for you to review. Any comments, concerns, or questions for the committee? Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Moved.
Second? May I have a second, please?
Hello.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The motion to adjourn is approved. Thank you very much. This concludes the meeting of the Finance and Member and Participant Services Committee. Thank you very much.